in Israel and in Gaza at the moment. As we understand it, 20 of the only living hostages, 20 of them have now been released to Israeli forces. Donald Trump has arrived in Israel, is about to address the Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament. He will then, after doing that, he will then leave for Sharm el-Sheikh, where world leaders, including Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, have arrived, and that'll be about how the 20-point peace plan will be managed. Also, in the last hour, former Prime Minister Tony Blair has arrived in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. He is part of that 20-point peace plan. So is this peace in the Middle East, as Donald Trump has suggested? He says, as president, he has declared war is over. Well, Filippo Dianigi is a senior lecturer in politics and international relations. Filippo, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I wonder how many times in history we've heard it's peace in Middle East.
Yeah, a lot indeed.
So what makes this different, or is it different? Because this seems to be the will of the President of the United States. I did a little bit of compare and contrast on this and Biden's plan, President Biden's plan. There's not a lot of difference in it, except it's Donald Trump who's made this happen.
Exactly. No, I think there is a little bit of an overstatement going on here. We're not talking about peace in the Middle East. For the time being, we are seeing a ceasefire being implemented after 2 years of gruesome war, started 2 years ago by the Hamas attack against Israel, and then the reaction of Israel against this attack, which has been brutal violence, unrestrained violence, for which Israel has been accused of genocide. And today what we're witnessing is a possible agreement between the two parties at war, and hopefully the beginning of a ceasefire. Peace is a far greater concept, and one that should encompass a far more inclusive and complex agreement between the parties involved in this war.
What is interesting within all of this is that the 20-point peace plan here talks about Israel publicly accepting the agreement, Hamas publicly accepting it. Well, they've sort of accepted it in part, not in full. And it talks about the return of hostages, those living and dead, 48 in total, 20 living. That's already been done. It then talks about how this peace will be managed, and it does involve disarming. Now, how on earth is that going to be monitored? Because I can't find any way of monitoring it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly the question that everyone is asking. It's also why I'm very cautious about calling this peace instead of a ceasefire, as you say. 20 points are not enough, and they're also very broad to solve a situation that is very complex in that sense. The expectation is that after this first stage, with the hostages being released and the bodies being returned from Gaza to Israel, there'll be also a beginning of the returning of Palestinian prisoners from Israel to Gaza. In fact, there is an agreement for 1,966 Palestinian prisoners to be returned to Gaza. And after this, then there'll be a second phase, a phase in which the expectation is that a Palestinian-led committee will begin to control and rule over Gaza under the supervision of a so-called Board for Peace, which is a rather strange initiative in which international actors will supervise the implementation of, a calmer transition.
And that's what's going on in Sharm el-Sheikh, isn't it, Philippe?
That's part of what is being negotiated in Sharm el-Sheikh now, yes.
And that's why Prime Minister Tony Blair there, because former Prime Minister Tony Blair is there because he was cited by Donald Trump as a member of this Board of Peace, which is number 9 in the 20-point plan that I've got here in front of me. Before I let you go, Filippo, this has been an international conflict that has seen both sides fight it and fight it brutally. Certainly since the 7th of October, the world has been watching this with increasing horror. There have been many protests here in Bath and in Bristol and about what's going on in Gaza on all sides, and that politics has hit home for a number of people. Does this take the heat out of it? Or are we just going to watch this day to day, week to week, and that heat slowly goes down?
We will have to see. It will be a gradual process. What we're seeing today is a chink of light in what is otherwise a very bleak and dark situation, as you were saying. What may happen next is a scenario that is somewhat similar to what is happening in Lebanon now. That is, Israel may continue to carry out targeted operations in Gaza, and Hamas, as you were saying a minute ago, may not necessarily commit to a full disarmament, because that's a difficult process to implement and something that Hamas is unwilling to implement for the time being, as we know.
That's point 6 of the plan, that one there.
Will remain high. Say it again?
That was point 6, isn't it? Once all hostages returned, Hamas members will commit to a
remain
peaceful.
high, and it also depends on the extent to which international forces will commit to the implementation of this agreement, whether there will be a so-called stabilization force on the ground, and which militaries will be involved in this process, and whether they will be actually capable of implementing a disarmament, which is unlikely if you think of it. How is this going to happen in practice? You would need to come through the entire Gaza to do that, but that's just simply not possible in practice. So what really is needed is the actual commitment of the parties involved to disarm and accept peace.
I suppose, Filippo, the only way we're going to know this is in months, maybe years, that there is peace, rather than it being declared on day one, because there are many steps that have yet to be completed.
I agree. This is the first positive development in a long time, but it's a long process, a long and challenging process.
Filippo Adelangi, Senior Lecturer in Politics and International Relations at the University of Bristol. Many thanks for joining me this morning on what is a historic day. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you.